Good morning. It's May 26th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the successful Nudy space rocket launch. South Korea's indigenous space rocket has safely made into orbit on its first ever actual mission. The final communication status with the 8 satellites will be announced in the coming hours. The South Korean inspection team that visited the Fukushima nuclear power plant will return to Seoul today after their 6-day trip to Japan. In the meantime, the Korean government is trying its best to allay public concerns about seafood being exposed to radioactivity. Typhoon Mawar battles Guam, leaving around 3,000 visitors from Korea stranded on the western Pacific Ocean island.
엔진 점화 26 우리호가 발사되었습니다.
South Korea's homegrown space rocket Nudy has successfully completed its first ever proper mission, putting 8 working satellites into orbit. Now, Thursday's success cements the country's status as a space power. Our Lee Kyung-eun starts us off this morning.
3, 2, 엔진 점화 26
Using South Korean technology by South Korean researchers and launching from South Korean soil. At 6:24 p.m. Thursday, South Korea's first homegrown space rocket, Nudy, blasted off from Naro Space Center at the country's southern tip. Following 2 test flights, Nudy this time took on its first actual mission to put 8 working satellites into orbit, which was key to determining the success of this flight. And 13 minutes and 3 seconds into the flight, Nudy reached its target altitude of 550 kilometers when it released the satellites at 20-second intervals.
South Korea's domestically developed spacecraft Nudy has successfully completed its 3rd launch with the support of the public.
The primary goal was sending the main satellite, the next generation small satellite 2, into an orbit where it could always make use of solar energy to operate in generating images of the Earth. That main satellite was confirmed to have successfully separated and be communicating with the ground. All the other cube satellites on board were subsequently separated, except for one whose status is still being verified. Yet it is a solid success.
We believe it is a success given that Nuri entered the target orbit and the main satellite was safely separated.
The milestone achievement came after Wednesday's initial launch was called off due to technical glitch in the software controlling the helium valve. But the next attempt was swiftly made with problems sorted while Nudy remained in position. That's different from the second launch when a hardware glitch caused a delay, prompting Nudy's transportation back to the assembly center. Thursday's launch was designed as South Korea's first attempt to launch a commercial satellite via domestically developed spacecraft. It is also the first time Hanwha Aerospace jointly manufactured the Nudy rocket. Hanwha Aerospace will lead 3 more launches by 2027, opening the era of South Korea's private-led space endeavors. With the success of the 3rd launch, South Korea takes a step further to building more reliability and confidence in space launch vehicles while providing commercial services tailored for satellites. 이경은, Arirang News, 고흥.
Following the successful launch of Nudy, President Yoon congratulated all involved and said South Korea had now declared itself among the top nations in aerospace development.
정말 벅차고 그리고 이 우주 과학이 모든 산업의 선도 역할을 하는 것인 만큼 이제 전 세계에서 우리 대한민국의 첨단 과학 기술을 바라보는 눈이 저는 이번에 확 바뀔 거라고 생각합니다.
He added that he believes from now, countries deemed ahead of South Korea in space programs will be reaching out to cooperate and share information. He also highlighted the significance of the delivery of functioning satellites into orbit and acknowledged that 3 of those satellites have been made by startups. Taking to social media, the president called on younger generations to take motivation from Nudy's launch and promised to make a country where they can work towards their dreams. And the southern coastal village of Gohung, where Nudy was shooting for the stars, was full of excitement and more enthusiasm than ever. Our Xin Donghyok was there to experience that exciting atmosphere.
As the countdown began for Nudy, the excitement and anticipation in the Naro Space Center continued to build. This time, the atmosphere was filled with a renewed sense of enthusiasm after a delay the day before. People from different parts of the country came all the way down to the southernmost county of Gohung to witness history.
It was delayed by a day, but seeing it in person today brings even greater excitement.
We came here yesterday, and although the delay was disappointing, I believe that setbacks often pave the way for success. It's truly an honor to witness this moment.
An engineer involved in the development of the Nudy rocket was feeling a mix of anxiety and excitement.
This is the 3rd launch attempt for us, and it hasn't been an easy journey. We faced difficulties in the previous 2 attempts, but I've seen countless encouraging comments online from the public. Our colleagues and engineers are giving their best, even at this very moment. I remain hopeful for a successful launch.
Teams of engineers, technicians, and support staff have been meticulously preparing for this momentous event. And the moment finally comes. Families and friends, young and old, all together celebrate the groundbreaking moment.
We traveled all the way from Daejeon to witness this lift-off. It's truly amazing to experience it together with my family.
The Nudy's blast-off is a milestone in the country's growing space program. And it is also a testament to the dedication of the engineers and the enthusiasm of the people. The soaring Nudy rocket has taken people's aspirations higher, which will reach new heights with each future mission. 신세벽, 아리랑 뉴스, 고흥.
By making its successful flight to put its payload of 8 satellites into orbit Thursday, South Korea's Nudy space rocket has proved itself and the country's capabilities for space transportation. Let's talk more about this thrilling point in South Korea's quest for space power with Professor Xin Donghyok from KST. Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
Professor, let's first talk about this successful launch. What are your thoughts and impressions? What does it mean for South Korea?
So it was another big progress in space exploration in Korea. So many people would have thought that it should be obvious success that for the 3rd launch. However, it was not the case, and history says that as well. So there are plenty of other countries that the launch failed after a series of success. For example, SpaceX had multiple failure as well. So it's still part of the process to prove our reliability. And then there was one glitch on Wednesday which caused a delay, but I think this is quite normal. So many launch is delayed so many times in foreign countries. So this is one typical way to go. And personally, the main payload was developed at KST, and then I also saw that in person, and then have an interesting feeling that the object is flying above the 500 kilometer. And then the third successful Nuri launch will be paving a way to build a space technology ecosystem in Korea. And Nuri also had other CubeSat to test homemade space devices. So, and then it's actually a rare opportunity for companies as well. So, in the end, the space industry need to grow all together with the government plan as well.
Right, Professor, you should be really overwhelmed with excitement and great joy as a person who saw it. And now we should not take the success for granted, like you mentioned. And plus, in the coming hours at 11 a.m. Korea time, the Space Center will announce the final status of the satellite's communication. Based on what we saw last night and know so far, what should we hear good news?
I think we still need to wait. So luckily there was some video footage about the jettison of satellite, but unfortunately it was only from one side. So we are very sure that the main satellite and then 4 other CubeSats are ejected properly. However, we could not see visually for the other 4 satellites. And then the telemetry said that it's quite clear about the 3 remaining 3 satellites are released okay. But there is just a little bit of the kind of inconsistent information about the last one. So we need to wait. Each satellite emit beacon signal. So all the main satellite and then 7 CubeSat emit beacon signal. So if the ground station is able to catch the beacon signal from the older satellite, I think that will be the one way to confirm that. Otherwise, we may have to wait. Maybe, in some cases, we may have to wait a little bit more because otherwise, we have to check the telemetry in more detail and then check whether it was ejected properly.
Right, not yet to be relieved, but we are on the right track so far, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
But we're not done yet. There'll be 3 more Nudy launches from 2025 to 2027. How will the next launch be different from Thursday's launch? I'm talking about the one in 2025. Please, could you explain those missions and the scope of Hanwha's participation, the private firm's participation?
So actually, the launch hardware itself, it won't be that different. So it'll be more likely almost the same hardware. However, it's a different people and then different institute who handle the whole operation. So, of course, next launch it will not complete by HANA itself. So it will be kind of jointly between KARI and HANA. And then as the time goes by, the embarkment of HANA will be more. And then also another important one is payload or satellite. So next time it will be next generation compact satellite 3 will be on board, and then depending each mission, the altitude and then the specific type of orbit will be decided later.
Right. We should definitely look forward to space technology being expanded to private sector here in the country as well.
That's correct. That's right, yeah.
All right, Professor Xin, thank you so much for your time this morning.
Yeah, thank you.
The 6-day visit to the Fukushima nuclear power plant by South Korean inspection team has come to an end. Now, all eyes are on the results of their findings, which the team says will be announced as soon as possible. Lee Seung-jae reports.
After their 2-day on-site inspection of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, South Korea's 21-member inspection team held a meeting with Japanese officials as part of their final itinerary on Thursday. One of the key things the team inspected was the plant's power supply to see how the facilities would cope with unexpected events such as earthquakes and tsunamis. They also requested any further information the Japanese officials could provide for them, as the South Korean side stressed that significant progress could be made in evaluating safety with as much information as possible made available. With the team returning to Korea on Friday, the head of the delegation, Yoo Ki, said that a comprehensive evaluation will be made after further analysis of their inspection, and the results will be announced as soon as possible. Despite the inspection, South Koreans are still very much concerned about the planned release of contaminated water stored at the facility and how it will impact seafood originating in Japan. While seafood from Fukushima is still banned, imports of Japanese fishery products from other regions are steadily increasing, with imports of scallops, sea bream, and pollock on the rise. The Ministry of Food and Drug Safety has been inspecting all fishery products coming in from Japan, with 5 cases in which trace amounts of radioactivity were detected and returned since 2011. While the South Korean government is doing all it can to reassure South Korean consumers through transparent inspections, concerns may rise even more once the wastewater is eventually released into the ocean. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The presidential office says there has been no change in South Korea's policy of sending only non-lethal aid to Ukraine, following U.S. media speculation that Seoul is ready to send hundreds of thousands of artillery shells to Ukraine via the U.S. Our top office correspondent Oh Soo-young has more.
Is South Korea changing its policy of only sending non-lethal aid to Ukraine? The presidential office says no, denying a Wall Street Journal report that a policy turnabout is already underway. In response to the US publication's claim that Seoul is proceeding with a confidential deal to supply Washington with hundreds of thousands of rounds of artillery that would end up in Ukraine. South Korean officials have been quick to insist that Seoul is not giving direct military support to Kyiv.
There are inaccuracies in the content of the report. As you know, the international community is providing support to keep peace and stability in Ukraine against Russia's illegal aggression.
The Defense Ministry spokesperson said he cannot discuss every single detail of Seoul's arms deal talks with Washington, but that the government will take appropriate measures upon reviewing the situation in Ukraine. Earlier media reports had said amid discussions on supporting Ukraine, South Korea was planning to lend 500,000 rounds of 155mm shells to the United States. But Seoul officials have been concerned that sending weapons or ammunition to Kyiv could antagonize Moscow. Russia last month threatened to deliver arms to North Korea as a quid pro quo if South Korea sent weapons to Ukraine. Those threats came after President Yoon suggested he may have to broaden support for Kyiv if Moscow commits large-scale atrocities or breaks the international rules of war. His office has since clarified that Seoul maintains its non-lethal mode of assistance. On Wednesday, Yoon's national security advisor Cho Tae-yong told lawmakers Seoul has until now sent humanitarian and financial assistance to Kyiv. There is no ammunition being sent to Ukraine directly or indirectly through Poland, he said, responding to a question about the possibility of sending arms via Poland or the US. A senior presidential aide to President Yoon told reporters Thursday that the top office has previously stated its position on support for Ukraine, and that position remains unchanged. It also claimed Japanese media reports that Yoon may visit Ukraine in July were inaccurate. After meeting Volodymyr Zelensky in Hiroshima on Sunday, the South Korean leader said Seoul would actively review delivering mine removal equipment and evacuation vehicles. Yoon's office says Kyiv only requested non-lethal aid last week when Zelensky's wife visited the South Korean leader as a special envoy to her husband. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
North Korea has been reportedly sending out phishing emails to South Koreans, and the majority of them impersonating managers of major websites such as Naver and Kakao. Our Lee Dae-hyun has this report.
North Korea appears to have been impersonating the managers of major South Korean portal websites as part of an organized email phishing scam. Statistics released by the National Intelligence Service on Thursday show that the sending of phishing email was Pyongyang's most common hacking method from 2020 to 2022, accounting for 74% of such attacks. 68% of the hacking emails were reportedly found to be impersonating South Korea's major websites, Naver and Kakao, followed by financial institutes and media and foreign affairs and national security institutes. North Korean cyber scammers would send fraudulent emails pretending to be website managers in the hope of making the user download malware or hack personal account information through those emails. They also sent emails saying there's a problem with a targeted user's account security, duping users into clicking links. Other hacking methods include attacking vulnerabilities in security software programs and luring a targeted group into infected dummy websites. The National Intelligence Service, after releasing the report, also introduced ways to avoid these email phishing scams. They suggested people check email icons, as emails from website managers use different ones from hackers. Email addresses, too, are slightly different, so checking spelling is recommended. The agency also said to put a cursor on a link before clicking it so that it can show a preview of a website, which may help people to distinguish whether it's an authentic link or not.
There are a lot of programs in web browsers like Chrome where phishing emails are blocked, as there are many cases of cyber attackers impersonating website domains. Using these programs may help you.
The National Intelligence Service also said victims of cyber attacks are now being expanded from national security officials to students and office workers, warning all internet users to be cautious. Lee Dae-hyun, Arirang News.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in Guam, where thousands of travelers have been stranded after a Category 4 typhoon struck the U.S. island territory. Flights to and from Guam have been cancelled in the wake of Typhoon Mawar's arrival, as its international airport has been flooded. At least 3,000 South Korean tourists are currently unable to return home. Making landfall on Wednesday local time, the typhoon brought rain, 9-meter-high waves and wind speeds of up to 225 kilometers per hour. The storm overturned cars, ripped off roofs, and left tens of thousands of homes without power. It is the first Category 4 typhoon to hit Guam in 20 years. The storm is now headed toward the Philippines and has grown into a Category 5 storm. Now moving on to South Africa, where a fugitive on the run for over 20 years for his alleged role in the 1994 Rwandan genocide has been arrested. According to United Nations prosecutors, Fulgence Kayishema was apprehended in the town of Paarl on Wednesday, local time. He will be extradited to Rwanda, where he will face trial. In 2001, Kayishema fled the country after he was charged for planning and carrying out the killing of over 2,000 ethnic Tutsis hiding inside a Catholic church. It's said that he and others first tried to burn the church with the people inside. They then reportedly bulldozed it when the church failed to catch fire and buried the bodies in mass graves. The 1994 Rwanda genocide occurred during the civil war in the country and saw around 800,000 Tutsis and moderate Hutus killed by armed Hutu militias. Turning over to the United States, the founder of the Oath Keepers militia group has been sentenced to 18 years in prison. This for his role in the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol in 2021, meant to stop the presidential transfer of power after former U.S. President Donald Trump lost the 2020 election. Stewart Rhodes was handed the sentence on Thursday in a Washington federal court after being found guilty of seditious conspiracy. The charges included his recruitment of new members and the collection of weapons at a nearby hotel during the attack to arm a so-called quick reaction force.
Good morning. It has been a sunny week, and now we have frequent rain in the forecast through the holiday weekend. There will be on and off rain in the south, while another band of passing rain is in the forecast from this evening, afternoon into the evening, along with thunder and lightning in inland areas. But the rest of the country will be under lots of clouds, but temperatures will be similar to just a few notches lower than yesterday. But Gangneung will be hotter at 28 degrees. Air quality will be normal to good nationwide. And if you remember, we had a wet Children's Day weekend 3 weeks ago, and I hate to disappoint you, but this upcoming 3-day weekend, Saturday marking Buddha's birthday, looks to be a rainy one as well. So take the weather into account if you are planning outdoor activities. Now, rain continues in the south until next Tuesday, but the sunshine returns to the central regions with warmer temperatures. That's Korea for you. Here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That wraps up today's New Day at Arirang. Do stay with us. We're coming back at 12 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.